Hey everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. Tonight we're going to make spaghetti squash. The name is spaghetti squash boats stuffed lasagna style. And this is a low carb dish. The first thing you want to do is for a serving of 8, we have about, well, it's a little over. It's 2 spaghetti squash, but one larger, one smaller. It calls for 1.25, so I just said 1.5. You scoop out the seeds. First, I microwave them just to soften up the shell so you can cut through it. And then I only did that for 5 minutes. The oven is set at 425, so I put olive oil and sea salt into the spaghetti squash and then brushed it with some olive oil. Turned it upside down on the foil, the cut side down, and then I put it in the oven 425 for about 20 minutes, and I will be scooping or making spaghetti strands out of the squash later, and you can see me do that. All right, we'll be back. We're about to make the filling. So, hey, it's now to make the filling for the spaghetti squash boats. I'm going to heat up a tablespoon of olive oil because I want to cook my garlic cloves. I have 3 garlic cloves here, so we're going to go ahead and just give the garlic cloves a little bit of a fragrance, so it doesn't take long, probably about 30 seconds. And then I'm going to add in a pound of organic ground beef. You can use any protein source you'd like. And by that I mean some people prefer not to eat red meat and they might use the plant-based Beyond Meat. Other people would prefer to use ground turkey, and that would be just fine. So now you smell the garlic. I'm going to go ahead and cook my pound of ground beef. Once my ground beef is brown, then I will go ahead and continue on with the filling. Let me turn my heat down a little bit. All right, you guys, I'll be back. So while the ground beef was cooking, you make the cheese filling, which in this case was going to be a cup of ricotta. And we used a 1/4 cup of Parmesan. And we put a tablespoon of olive oil. And just going to stir it. And we will be using this a little later. So we'll be back so we can finish up the meat filling. All right, so now that the meat filling is just about cooked, and I added some salt and pepper to my ground beef. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and drain my meat because it's got a little bit more fat from the ground beef than I want to stay in the pan. So I'll be back. So I've drained the ground beef, and I'm going to go ahead and add in my marinara sauce. And this is a low carb sauce. I have a 1/2 cup in here. We're going to stir that in there really good for about 10 minutes along with some Italian seasoning. And because of the serving amount, we're going to use a teaspoon, a little over a teaspoon. And some salt and pepper to taste, not measuring this, you guys, so just kind of, you know, how you want your food to taste by season. And this is a really good low-carb spaghetti sauce, Rayo's. I found this at Sprouts, but you can also find it at Walmart. So we're going to go ahead and let the meat simmer for 10 minutes. And we'll be back so that we can go ahead and shred our spaghetti, quote unquote, and then put it with the cheese mixture. All right, see you soon. So while the ground beef is simmering, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean by shredding the spaghetti squash. We just take a fork and just run it through like so. I'll start to do just one, but of course we're going to do all of the squash. Once this is all shredded, you can see how it starts to take on the appearance of spaghetti. So when I'm done with that, we're going to put it in our cheese mixture. So I'll be back. Okay, so I've shredded my spaghetti strands nicely. One of the things we have to remember about using the spaghetti squash is that you don't want it to be too mushy. So if you decide to microwave it, I mean I do because it makes it easier to cut the spaghetti squash. You don't want to overcook it. So you want the strands to be, you could probably microwave the spaghetti squash the entire time. However, it is kind of nice to get a little bit of a roasted flavor when you put it in the oven after being cut and turning it upside down. So we're just giving this a nice little stir, and I will probably add a little sea salt to this. I will, not probably. Let's make that a yes. So a little sea salt, and continue mixing this really well. The next step will be to put this cheese spaghetti squash mixture in our boats. So that's our next step, you guys. Hang on. So as you could see, I've already stuffed the boats, quote unquote. And now I'm just going to go ahead and put the meat topping on each one of my boats like so. So as you've seen me do this one, I will be continuing along each of the spaghetti squash boats, and then they'll be topped with some mozzarella. That's my Parmesan, oops. All right, you could probably put a little more Parmesan on the top just to make it golden, but each one is gonna look like this. It's gonna go in the oven for about 10 minutes at 425. All right, hang on. Here's the final product out of the oven. As you can see, I did foil line my baking sheet, and that's really a good idea because you get some juices coming out of your lasagna boats, your spaghetti squash lasagna boats. But doesn't that look delicious? We're going to be having these boats. It's really, we're going to split it. It's going to be a serving for each person to have the boat. I did sprinkle the Parmesan cheese on top just to give it a little extra something, something. And I always put a little link on the bottom of in the description box so that you can follow up if you want to make this on your own. Bon appetit!